There are 4 chords that we run across more than any other while we're playing jazz. The 1 chord, the 2 chord, the 5 chord, and the 6 chord. And when we put those together in a different order, we get 1, 6, 2, 5. We call this a turnaround. But we do this in absolutely every song. These same 4 chords we put at the end of every song that we play. And so it starts to get a little dull and monotonous if we don't change it up a little bit. So here are 8 ways that we could take a turnaround like this and we could jazz it up a little bit to make it sound a little more hip. So let's take a simple standard like Days of Wine and Roses. We're here in the key of F. When we get to the end of Days of Wine and Roses, it sounds like this. Right? What we want to do when we get here to the end of the song is take ourselves back up to the top so we can repeat it or we could take a solo over top of it. And so we put these 4 chords, 1, 6, 2, 5, at the end of it, and it kind of loops us back around so we can start over again. So the first version is exactly what I just showed you here, but let's look at it in a little bit more detail. So here in the key of F major, our 1 chord, of course, is F. Now when we go to the 6th chord, we're going to stay within the diatonic key of F, meaning we're just going to use notes of the F scale, and so that gives us D minor. Then when we go to the 2 chord, G, same idea, we're using just notes from the F major scale. We get a G minor chord, and then a C7 chord as our 5 chord. Pretty basic. So let's spice it up a little bit. There's a PDF worksheet down in the description for free that you can use if you want to see the notation for everything I'm about to show you. Now for number 2, we're going to keep the chords basically the same. We're going to keep the same roots, F, D, G, C, but we're going to change up what chords we play. So for the D chord, instead of playing D minor, we're going to play D7. And instead of G minor, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to play G7. And of course, C7 is going to stay the same. What makes this interesting is we're going around the circle of fifths. So this D7 dominant goes down by a fifth to G, which goes down by a fifth to C, which goes down by a fifth to F. Now to go to number 3, what we're going to do is keep those dominant chords the way they are, but we're going to add some extra notes. We could either extend them by adding more notes from the F major scale, or we could alter them by adding altered notes, by notes that are chromatic outside of the key of F major. And what that does is it makes each of these dominant chords more tense, right? We want tension and release in our playing. So this is an opportunity for us to ramp up more tension that we then can release. So we start here again. Our 1 chord we're going to keep the same because that's our home base. This is where we want to release our tension to. Now when we go to the 6th chord, we've been playing this kind of basic D7 chord, but let's ramp it up and let's put in this note here, which is an F natural against that F sharp. Listen to that gnarly tension. All right, now that has so much tension in it, it wants to resolve around the circle to G7. So instead of playing this basic G7 chord, I'm going to add an extra note, the 9. And then from there, that G7 is going to go to the circle, go around the circle to C7. And again, instead of playing this basic C7 chord, we're going to play this gnarly C7 with the sharp 9. Maybe then resolve the sharp 9 down to the flat 9, which is getting us closer to resolved, right? But not quite there. And then finally the F resolves it. So putting it into tune, it sounds like this. For number 4, we're going to introduce the idea of a tritone substitution. A tritone substitution just means for any of our dominant chords that we're playing, we can substitute it for another dominant chord that is a tritone away. And there's a lot that goes into this. There's an entire video on the channel that you can watch right here that goes into this much more slowly. But let's say we were taking our D7 chord. If we wanted to substitute that for our tritone, it would be the A flat dominant. And you might notice the only note that changes is the bass. All of the notes in our right hand stay the same. We could leave this G7 in place, but let's also add the tritone sub for the C chord. So if this is our C7 chord, let's take it up a tritone. All we have to change is the bass. We get F sharp. And these all became altered notes, just like with the D chord. When we do this, something really neat in the left hand happens. Our bass notes start on F, then A flat, then G, then F sharp, and then back to F. So it creates this chromatic line, which is so cool. So for number 5, we're going to take this idea of the tritone. We're going to keep these chords exactly the same, but we're going to insert a new chord in between each of them. So the dominant chords usually act as a 5 chord, right? So if we were like playing an A flat 7 chord, that's a 5 chord that's in the key of D flat major. You might know from playing jazz in other contexts, a 5 can also be a 2-5. It's very common for us to put the 2 in front of it. So if this is our 5 chord, A flat, our 2 chord is going to be E flat minor. Okay, then our next chord after A flat 7 was G, G7. If we think of that as being a 5 chord, its 2 chord would be D minor. And our last one was G flat, also a 7th chord, which means that it could be a 5 chord and its 5 would be D flat. Okay, so putting that all together, we've got F. Now we're going to precede our A7 chord with that 2, E flat. Then we're going to precede the G chord with its 2, D, D minor, and then the G flat, right? We do the same thing. So we're going to play D flat, G flat, and then finally resolve it back here on F. For number 6, we're going to do something entirely different. We're going to take a page out of a gospel playbook. There are 2 components to this gospel shout that we have to get right. But beyond that, we can be a little bit flexible. So the first thing is we need to have this bass line that starts on the root, jumps down to the 3rd of the chord, that's A, and then it walks up. The other thing we have to do is for all the chords that we play in our right hand, we want to voice them with the F note on top. F is the root of our key, and so it helps anchor us in the key while we're turning around. Beyond that, the chords that you pick, you can be a little bit creative with. Here's one that I like. F major. Then we have F7 with that A on the bottom. We jump down. Now we're gonna walk up. Let's play a B flat 7. B diminished. Now we've got F over C. Now this is the cool one, D7, but we've got that F on top. That's the sharp 9. Then we've got E flat 7. That F is the 9. Now here's the one we have to change. We're going to play an E diminished, and I'm going to play an E on the top just to resolve it back here to F. For number 7, we're going to do something completely different. All of the ones that we've been doing so far have been going around the circle of fifths. And we're still going to go around the circle of fifths with this one, but we're going to go around them in the opposite direction. So we're going to be coming at it from the left side instead of from the right side. I think that's right. All right. So in this case, what we're going to do, we're going to take F, starting on 1 like always. We're going to then turn this into F7. Now these 2 chords, of course, are both F chords, but they have completely different functions. The F chord as a major chord is a 1 chord in the key of F, but the F chord as a dominant chord is a 5 chord in the key of B flat. So this wants to take us right around the circle of fifths, F7 to B flat. And we're going to make it B flat minor. So we've got this B flat minor 7 chord, and we're going to use it as a 2 and a 2-5 progression, just like we did a second ago with the tritones. So B flat is the 2, E flat 7 will be our 5. Okay, now we end up here on E flat 7, and we're going to do this really interesting move where we go up a whole step from E flat dominant to F. So all together, we've got F major, F dominant. That takes us to B flat minor, E flat 7, F major. This last one, number 8, is one of my favorites, and it's one of these turnaround progressions that everybody really needs to know, and it comes from the tune Lady Bird. We're going to start here on F, just like we always have. Now in this case, let's look at just the roots in our left hand. We're going to do this. We're going to go to the flat 3, which is A flat. Then we're going to go around the circle of fifths to D flat, and then again around the circle of fifths to G flat. And then we're going to be back on 1. So we've got F, and we're going to go to A flat 7 to D flat 7. Now when we get here to the G flat, instead of playing a dominant chord, and this is so cool, we're going to play a major 7. Major 7, G flat major 7. And the reason that this is cool is because the top note, our melody note if you will, is F. And so this is kind of the thing that ties us back to the key of F. So all together, that was a very wacky way of playing that progression. Not everybody likes to play this G flat chord as a major 7, but I do. I think it just sounds awesome. To learn how to take a dominant chord that sounds super basic like this, but then spice it up to sound gnarly, you need to watch this video that I've picked for you next.